Hey car care nuts, how you doing today? So today we're gonna work on this 2010 Camry. Sorry, the sun is in my eye. I'm trying to get the car in the shot too. So we're gonna be diagnosing a noise on a 2010 Camry. A good family friend brought this to me, and they don't know much about cars. That's why I'm working on it. They tell me there's an abnormal noise from the car. Now let me walk you through how we're gonna diagnose this and how we're gonna fix it and send the lady on her way nice, safe, and sound without big issues. So let's go to the car, let's listen to the noise, and let's start diagnosing. So the noise we're listening to is a faint whining noise. You can hear it. I hope the camera is picking it up well. I hear it from this general area. Now it could be the alternator, it could be the tensioner, it could be a million things. I've seen this like 200 times, so I know it's an alternator. But you never just go by what the last 10 cars did. So here's a little trick for you. You got a noise, you think it's from the alternator. Here's a quick trick. So you see this little connector right here for the connector, for the alternator? Unplug it. Noise is gone. That's it. That's your problem. You plug it back in, listen to the noise come back. There it is. You hear it? Noise is gone. Noise is back. So that's a very simple diagnosis. So let me shut off the car. We'll go ahead and replace that alternator. I'll show you a few tips and tricks along the way as well. All right, everybody. So as we start, we're going to remove this alternator. Now, this is a 2AR FE engine. So you're going to find this engine from 2010 Camry all the way to 17. Only difference is around 2012, power steering is gone. So there's no longer a second belt. That's the only difference between these two. So first step, every time you remove this guy right here, this connection right here, there's a 10mm nut behind there. This wire always have 12 volts. You touch that to any body ground, you're gonna blow the main fuse, and we're gonna have big problems. So either disconnect the negative terminal on the battery, or here's what you do. A little trick for you. Get it off carefully, put your nut away. Take it off, make sure it doesn't touch anything. And now we're going to leave this on here, and we're going to take some electrical tape and wrap it around. That way we can move the wire freely without having to worry that this thing is touching everybody and blowing our fuse. Just be generous with the tape. You want to make sure it's nice and protected. When you're done, give it a little loop so you can easily peel it off when we're done. Now the next thing is, we're gonna disconnect this harness right here. Just a little clip, a little screwdriver, you pop it. Then in case earlier you did not see that other connector, here's the connector we were disconnecting to see if the noise goes away. So we're gonna unplug that, just push it right here, it pops right out. Then to give yourself a little bit more slack with this harness, push this clip, pop this out. This is the oil pressure switch. Unplug that. Now the wire is nice and loose. Now, we're gonna get our belt off. So the tensioner is right here. This is a 14mm. So I'm gonna get a long 14mm wrench, put it on there, pull on it. Now a little trick, because you're gonna pull on it, it's gonna hit the alternator. Get yourself a long pry bar, put it right here to hold the tensioner. I prefer to use a ratcheting one in this case, because it makes life much easier. If you don't have it, you're just gonna have to reposition it and then push it more, hold it again with the pry bar until you have enough slack to get your belt off. Now, if you're only doing an alternator, don't pull the belt all the way out. Most of these 4-cylinder Toyotas always pull it off the water pump, which is directly underneath the alternator. and just hang the belt down. Don't let it go all the way out because we don't need to. Work hard, smart, not hard. So now let's remove the alternator. Most of your 4-cylinder alternators will have two bolts, two 14mm bolts. One right here and one underneath the alternator. So let me loosen them and we'll take them out. Here's one, that's a long one. And here's a short one. Now I am cheating, I'm using a little electric ratchet, but you can wrench them out by hand. Or I actually recommend that electric ratchet, it does wonders. So now that the alternator bolts are loose, we're gonna reposition our harness this way, out of the alternator's way. See, this is touching all over the place. The one that we wrapped, if you didn't wrap it, you would have already popped the fuse if you didn't disconnect the battery. So now that the alternator is there, you try to tug on it, nothing. You're gonna use either a pry bar, or I like to use my lucky screwdriver. Pop it off. Now this alternator is original. It has never been out before, so it's pretty stubborn. And again, rust belt, it's pretty rusted on there. I'll show you what's actually sticking. The thing is pretty hot too. Fun times. Ooh, this one is very stuck. Now, if you live in Texas, California, you ain't gonna be fighting this. There we go. Now you're gonna just get it out. Here's our alternator. Now, these alternators have a one-way clutch. You can try it. Spin it one direction and turn it. You're gonna see that the pulley outside and inside are not synchronized. That's usually what fails on these. Now, the part we're putting in is gonna be an original part. I asked this lady, how long are you keeping this car? Are you getting rid of this car in a year? Then let's put an aftermarket cheapo one. It'll probably go out in a year or two. But if you're getting rid of the car, it doesn't matter. If you're keeping the car though, this alternator right here is 10 years old. So if you're keeping the car and have no plans to get rid of it, let's put an original alternator. And she's keeping the car, so we're putting an original alternator. So let me go get the alternator, we'll put it in, and we'll talk a little bit about how to install them if you're not replacing the alternator. So here's the new alternator. Now, a common mistake I see all the time, especially DIY, and this is who this video is for, you gotta swap your brackets. Do you see how this bracket right here for the harness? You gotta swap it. It's very simple. 10mm bolt, take it out, 10mm bolt. We're done. That's it. Simple as that. Your job looks professional. The wire goes right back in the right position. Everything is good. One more thing. If you were removing this alternator to do something else, which by the way, if you're gonna do a water pump on this engine, alternator has to come out. If you're gonna do a tensioner, which is right there, 12mm bolt comes right out, also have to remove the alternator. So, now that I've said that, the reason I was fighting the alternator and it was so hard to take off is there's this moving pin. When you tighten the alternator, this will push in and hold against here. So if you're not, let's say you're doing a tensioner, you're gonna put your long bolt right back here and you're gonna tap it until this becomes flush. I hope you can see this on the camera. Once this guide pin comes out, it becomes flush like the new one. The new one, you see how it's flush? So, now, let's install our alternator. Let's put the old alternator here. Now you're gonna notice that the new alternator will go right in. One thing I will warn you about these, the bottom bolt loves to cross thread on these. So before we put it on, let me find that other bolt. Where did I throw it? Here it is. Let me put this on the ground. This bolt, make sure it threads in here nice, just like that. Because these bolts love to cross thread and pull the aluminum out of the old alternator. I like how that feels. Let's put our new alternator in. You always put the single side, not the double side first. Pull your AC line a little bit, sneak it in there. Once it lines up, start your top bolt first. Just like so. Now you're probably not going to be able to see this well on camera, but when you install this bottom bolt, put the bolt in, pull the alternator up, and hold it, push it this way so it's flush. So you start that bolt. Don't just start at a couple threads. Make sure it starts multi-threads before you start tightening it, especially if you're using power tools. This is how you can easily cross-thread it. Now let me tighten these. Now that the alternator is in, let's put our wire harness. First, let's unwrap this. Do you see how this tab really helps? Just pops right out. Now we're gonna be careful not to let it touch anything. We're gonna put it back just like so. And we're gonna get our 10mm nut. We're gonna tighten that. Put the cap back on. Put the bottom connector on. By the way, if you didn't see this earlier, this is the one you take out when you test it. Put our harness back in. There we go. We're going to connect this oil pressure switch. Harness is done. Let's do the belt. Make sure we're good at the bottom. Just like that. I'm going to wrap it around the water pump. If you need more slack on this, remember the trick I showed you with the pry bar. You push it down. If you bottom out, just put your pry bar, hold it, and then give yourself more room. Oh, the tape came back. All right, folks. At this point, we're all done. We're going to check all our wires, make sure our belt is routed right. And then, once we're all ready and set, we're going to go ahead and start the car, make sure it's good. That sounds good to me. So guys, now the car care nut, today is actually Friday, so the car care nut is going to hunker down for the weekend, rest after a long, hard week of work. I wanted to ask you guys, especially my subscribers that watch the videos regularly, do you like, I just bought a GoPro, I'm trying to get the best angles for you guys. Let me know if you like that, if it made you dizzy. I don't watch car DIY videos. You guys tell me, do you like that? Did you like the angles? I know some of the stuff I was not showing it well. I'm also learning here. You guys let me know what you think. And if you like this video, and if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Follow the channel on Instagram and Facebook so you won't miss sneak peeks of upcoming videos. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have a wonderful day.